time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
Welcome to number 44 of the 49ers roster countdown, counting down the most important players for the 2022 season for the 49ers. Now, we've got defensive end, and man, there's just so many DNs that we could throw into this. We're going to go through every one of them. Jordan Willis, the man, mostly single-handedly, literally, got us to the NFC Championship game with the defeat of the Packers. We'll talk more about that. The block punt, the only touchdown the 49ers got that game was because of him. Offense was completely inept that game. 0% chance to win that. But the defense and special teams, who would have guessed, came up and got us a victory, which was huge. And so shout out to Jordan Willis. And man, I've known this kid for a long time. He's not a kid. He's 27 years old, entering into his sixth season. But he played very close to where I went to grad school, where I lived in, Kansas City, Missouri. He attended Rockhurst High School in Kansas City, Missouri, where he was an all-state player. I knew about him at a very young age for him. And, man, he just continued to show up. I'm a Longhorn fan. He had his best game of his college career at Kansas State against Longhorns, was the defensive player of the country that week. And, a guy that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch really, really liked because they acquired him when traded for him. So who is this guy? First off, his new number is 75. The minute that Laken Tomlinson left, and man, he will be missed, Jordan Willis went and switched his number to 75, which was his number at K-State and for the Cincinnati Bengals who drafted him. 6'4", 270. He is big, and he is fast. A little bit shorter than some of the other defensive ends for sure, but he is that speed guy. Big-time speed guy. Now, whenever let's jump back. Let's go to his high school days, and let's talk a little bit about that and kind of where he has come from. His full name is Jordan Jonathan Willis. Was born in 95 in San Diego, son of Calvin and Demetrica Willis. They have four siblings, or he has four siblings, and he majored in sociology and criminology at K-State, and he has the hopes of going back and attending law school. Very, very smart guy, senior class president. Just again, as we go through this countdown and we do all this research, shout out to Josh and Anthony, 49ers place a very high premium on academic character and intelligence. It's something that they value. They really, really do. Now, he was a 3-year letter winner at Rockhurst, and whenever he was there, first Metro team performer, recorded 58 tackles, 9 sacks during his senior season, was an all-Missouri team prior to his senior season, and then his junior year was actually his best year, 13 sacks, and he led Rockhurst to a 13-0 record and a 6A state championship as a sophomore for his high school. So you're talking about somebody. Dude delivered. Really, really did. Just kind of downtown, pretty close to downtown, Kansas City. And so awesome job there. 2013, he goes to K-State. Played in 9 games, but didn't really get a lot of starting time. 2014 started all 13 games and just started to thrive immediately. 6.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. 2015, 36 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. And that's kind of when he blew up on the stage. He just kind of took off. And then, you get into 2016, started 13 games, 17.5 tackles for loss, school record 11.5 sacks. And he got so many accolades. One of the best players ever to come out of Kansas State, if you're just looking at metrics. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Here we go. Let's read through some of these things. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week versus Texas. That hurt. Hendricks Award midseason watch list. First team All Big 12 in every single possible poll out there. Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Honorable mention All-American. Third team All-American. Second team All-American. The dude just went out there and performed and finished his career with 26 sacks, and 40.5 tackles for loss. The dude just lives in the backfield. One of the best defenders ever to come out of Kansas State, as far as if you're just looking at, tackles for loss, sacks, forced fumbles. He had 7 career forced fumbles, tied for 5th most in school history and 10th nationally whenever he left. And, K-State, it kind of marked, not necessarily the end, but they were 32-20 while he was there. and just continued to just dominate because he was just so consistent. So what does he bring to the table athletically? Dude is a workout warrior. 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.53. That's in the top 98 percentile of defensive ends. 3-cone, 6.85. 95 percentile of defensive ends. Vertical, 39. 95 percentile of defensive ends. 24 bench press reps, that's just average. And his broad jump was 125, so top 92 percentile. If you just look at his athletic profile metrics and comparables, two of the guys that jump off the list, Brian Burns and Boye Mafe of this year's draft. He is a speed edge guy. Now, this is maybe where those similarities end because I don't think he plays like them. He has the power to play like them. The bend does not show near as much as guys that have the traits that he has. And you look at the 3-cone, 6.85, and you're like, okay, yeah, he's changed direction, bendy. But whenever I watch this film, it's just stiff. It's a little stiff in the hips. The ankle flexibility is not there, and I think that's where those comparisons end. Now, he was drafted in 2017 in the third round, pick 73. I had him rated in that draft my number 80 overall player. So I kind of think I got pretty close to where he was. Went back, dug into the archives. My 2017 draft write-up before he was drafted. I went through there, just talked about more of a power rusher, doesn't run the arc well, doesn't lean into his blocks, flexibility's not there. Again, all this was before he played one NFL snap. Amazing play side run defender. And I put this in there. Great arm extension, keeps leverage in his gap, A+++ run defender, will struggle at pass rush to the next level, which he has, but will get effort sacks, and will have a long career because of his role versus the run. Not a Pro Bowl level talent. My play comparison, we talked about the athletic profile. My play comparison was Chris Gokong. And so I wish I was wrong here. I think I nailed that profile pretty dang good because that's exactly who he's been. So he gets drafted in the third round by the Bengals. Never really caught on. They waive him after 2 years. He jumps on with the Jets in 2019. Nothing was really there. And then they traded him to the 49ers October 27th, 2020. 49ers love doing trades on Halloween weekend. That's just kind of the way it goes. The 49ers traded a 6th-round pick in 2022. So that's why we didn't have one of our 6th-round picks was gone this year. But the Jets sent back Jordan Willis and a 2021 7th-rounder. So got him for pennies on the cheap. Very similar to what they did with Charles Omenihu. Again, you go get this guy that has an athletic profile the 49ers covet. They really, Kamiko Toure, very similar. Athletic profile. Jordan Willis, very similar. Chris Omenihu, very similar. Like, they have types that they're going after. And so you go basically buy low, sell high is the entire mindset. And so you brought him over. Now, the problem was whenever he came over, he hit COVID. That was the COVID year. He was on and off that. But last year, 2021, he gets suspended for performance-enhancing, league substance, whatever. Missed the first 6 games. But whenever he showed up, man, he was very consistent. Great role player for the 49ers. He logged 299 snaps for the 49ers last year. Again, remember, missed the first 6 games last year, but whenever he showed up, man, he made an impact. He was, his lowest snap total was 12 in a game. His highest was 23. So that's his role. Bravo group. He comes in. He's the backup guy, special teamer, helps with that. Last year, out of his 299 snaps, 216 were on defense, which would leave what? I'm smart. I can do this. 83 snaps on special teams. And the funny thing is, the play of the year for the 49ers, as far as I'm concerned, that block punt, he was not even repping. He was not getting snaps on punt block or punt return. Wasn't. It didn't even in that game. They just put him in, kind of sent him out there, with obviously they didn't think that was going to happen. But it just shows you when you get your opportunity, you got to shine. Now, looking back at what he did last year, 11 pressures, 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 5 hurries, 8 solo run stops. And that was with a 6-game suspension as a backup role. The dude's so good against the run. Remember, Fred Warner struggled early in the year when Kinlaw was out. And, one of the main reasons why Fred Warner's play was able to elevate is when they moved Eric Armstead inside. But also during that exact same time period, guess what? Jordan Willis came back and provided very stout run support from the edge to turn plays inside. Again, go back to my pre-draft write-up on this dude. A-plus run defender. A-plus run defender with elite speed. Just doesn't have the bend. I'm not saying he's the reason. I'm saying he is a small factor in the fact of All-Pro Fred returning. And that is a great thing whenever you can go to your Bravo group, the backup defensive line rotation, which is what Jordan Willis is. He's not going to compete for starting snaps. He's only started 2 games his entire career out of 60 games played. We know who he is at this point. So he's a guy that can come in 12 to 23 snaps. That's his role. You let Bosa get a break. You let Drake Jackson get a break. You let Sampson get a break. And you don't miss out on the run play, right? Yeah, you want everybody to be, a 10-sack guy and stuff. They just don't exist. They really, really don't. So you look at his career totals in 60 games played, 80 total tackles, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, that big block kick, that was huge, 1 pass defense. Now, if you look at camp, where was Jordan Willis? He took snaps with the first and second team in camp, but keep in mind, Nick Bosa was not taking snaps, so you got to kind of keep that out there. There's 4 speed ends on this team. Jordan Willis, Drake Jackson now, Samson Ebukam, and Kamiko Toure. Can they keep them all? They want to, for dang sure. I mean, they signed him to basically a $1 million deal, but it's all almost fully guaranteed. So if you cut him, you lose it all. And yeah, they want to keep these guys. They cannot have enough. So the question is, how do you make room for them? Well, do you carry 6 wide receivers or 5? Do you carry 4 running backs or 3? Do you carry 3 safeties or 4? So if you're going to add on to and make sure, I mean, Jordan Willis is staying, all right? I think all 4 of those guys, those speed guys, Willis, Jackson, Ebukam, Toure, they're all staying. You're not cutting them. So if that's the case, do you leave one more defensive tackle? You got to pull that spot from somebody else because they're keeping more than they should. And no, let me take that back. They're keeping more than most teams traditionally do. But that's the strength of this team, the depth, and they want to keep that there. So Willis is making this team. The depth that he provides in the rotation is so key. Doesn't show up in the stat line, whatever else. But when you see big number 75 out there, you don't have to stress. There's players when they would go in and you'd just be like, oh no, why is he out there? It's 3rd down. Stop it. But you don't have to worry about that with 75 because Jordan Willis, I mean, he's a pro. He's a pro. And he knows what he does well. The team knows what he does well. They covet him. They targeted him. They went and traded for him. They brought him back on another contract. They like what he brings. And again, best play of the year last year. That block punt, offense had less than 200 yards, no touchdowns, and a terrible interception. They were doing nothing. Manufactured 2 field goals in the second half, the 49ers offense versus the Packers. And one of those was because of an amazing Debo kickoff return. So they won that game because of him. Now, obviously, there's more things into it, but that play was huge. So I think that he's going to make this roster. I'm going to stay with that. But not looking for a giant impact stat-wise or snap-wise, just a glue guy. And that's kind of what the 49ers need. A lot more guys like this that your defense doesn't change when Nick Bosa's out of the game because of guys like Jordan Willis. And he allows your linebackers to still be good linebackers because he's so good versus the run. And so that's Jordan Willis. Love this guy. Followed his career for way too long. And glad he's on the 49ers, not beating up my favorite team like he did the Texas Longhorns. But that's number 44, Jordan Willis. Excited for him. It's a 1-year deal, so he's got motivation to play and live up to the hype if he wants another contract, which everybody does. But that's going to do it for us on number 44, and we're just going to keep counting them down.